about his investing experience as well as some of the mistakes that he made, which I think is really valuable for a new investor. Colin's a local family man, has 2 boys, got into real estate just 2 years ago, but has built a good portfolio since then. And he currently works as a portfolio manager, so he has a strong sort of financial background, financial understanding. So, Colin, come on up.
So as Ryan said, my name is Colin Schleifer. I thought maybe I would do this a little bit differently than some of the other presentations. I am going to talk about one of my properties, but I'm also going to tell you about all the absolutely terrible, stupid mistakes I made, so you can laugh at me later. But and there are many. So some of the stuff I'm going to just talk about real quick. My background. We'll go through the property, look at some pictures. I'll tell you exactly what went wrong. Everyone's favorite part, the numbers, and then what I learned from it. And I'll try to zip through it, and if anyone has any questions along the way, just stop me. And there will be an audience participation moment in this as well, so I hope you guys are ready for that. So my background, as Ryan alluded to, I've worked in investment management full-time for about the last 20 to 22 years or so, working with larger broker-dealers as well as asset managers. I've been part-time investing as a real estate investor for just under 2 years now. My portfolio currently consists of 3 buildings, all triplexes. 2 of them are in Nashua, one's in Manchester. And really, I think I took a little bit of a circuitous route to getting into investing. I never thought about investing until the beginning of the pandemic. And I've been thinking for a long time, how can I build another source of income? Because I strongly believe that with the proliferation of AI, predictive analytics, data segmentation, aggregation, that people that do what I do, there might not be, half of us around in 10 years. And so I started to think, how can I have a backup plan for that? Because I do have 2 young kids. 10 years from now, they're going to be entering college. I'm going to be in my prime earning years, and I might find myself without a job. And so real estate was where I landed. So like most of us probably in the room, I spent hundreds of hours in early 2020 listening to podcasts. I read 30 plus books. The one thing I didn't have access to was meetings like this because of the pandemic. And that, I think, really curtailed the learning curve for me as I kind of bumbled my way through trying to figure it all out. So, sorry about that. So, all right, so the property, 7-9 Oak Street in Nashua. Like most of the buildings in southern New Hampshire that are multifamilies, is over 100 years old. This building was pretty messed up when I bought it. It needed a lot more work than I thought it was going to need when I first got into it. It's not on the slide here, but I did purchase it for $395,000 in July of 2021 at a rate of 3.5%. You can see here the square footage on some of the units, and I did that on purpose because one of the things that I always look for when I'm buying these buildings is I want to get an oversized unit with a layout that's amenable to possibly adding a bedroom or expanding or doing something that I can do to get more rent when I have to rehab it, so I can make some good use out of it. And I've done that on all 3 of the buildings that I own up to this point. So, I'll take a look at some of the pictures now. You can see how screwed up some of this was and how ridiculous some of these pictures are. So this is one of my favorites. You can see AstroTurf floor. That's pretty spectacular, right? And so what was even more spectacular underneath that AstroTurf was just tons of pea stains, and I don't even want to know what the hell else was under there, but the wood was just not salvageable. Let's leave it at that. It's got this ridiculous olive green exterior paint on the inside, so it's super thick. That was fun. Needed new windows. The electrical in the building was all 60 amps, so we had to upgrade all of that. New everything, basically. You can see we put a mini split system in as well, just because this was a smaller unit, and I was hoping to be able to rent it for a little bit more if I could offer central air, which is pretty rare in that part of Nashua. So this next picture is one of the kitchens. What you can't see, which will be on the next picture, is we had to tear up this entire floor all the way down to the studs, down down to the dirt because the whole house was basically sinking on that side. So what we didn't know is that we had structural issues and had to put columns everywhere and jack it up and put new lumber in, sister everything. It was a real mess in there. It had this, oops. Well, there's the floor I was telling you about. I didn't mean to click that, but there it is. We had to rip all of that out and replace it. So that was an expense that we didn't see coming when we initially bought the property. But in hindsight, it was necessary, and I'm glad that we did it. Otherwise, you could have rolled a marble on one side of the building and it would have gone to the wall on the other side. This is a picture of one of the living rooms. Take note of the circa 1946 gas room heater, which was the only heat source for that unit. And also take note of the 30-year carpet and the pollution that gathered around the couch here in the entertainment center. It was pretty disgusting in there. And the living room here, you can't see at this angle, was like the Grand Canyon when you walk through it. So needed a lot of help there. This was one of the bathrooms, and this was pretty indicative of most of the units. I have no idea how these people showered without getting water and everything everywhere. It was disgusting. I mean, we had to rip out everything. Everything had to go out of this thing. So, obviously they didn't have any ventilation, so we had the fan. Just a ton of stuff. This next picture, in one of the units, they had this random room that was too small to do anything with, and it had the kitchen sink, but it was outside the kitchen. And I don't know how the hell that was functional. So we just ripped all that out, and I turned it into a laundry room for that unit. And you can see in one of the earlier slides here, what we did is we put in the sink here, removed the plumbing, put granite countertops in, soft close real wood cabinets. Probably an over improvement for this part of town, but I think they last longer and they look better, so it makes it easier to rent. So let's see, where was I? Okay, so this next picture, this is an upstairs unit, and this is what I was talking about before about adding value by adding bedrooms. This on the left side was the master bedroom. That unit was a 2-bedroom. We turned it into the living room, added some recessed lighting, with some other things in there, and then the much larger living room, which was really just a very long room. We split that in half, and, framed out a door, and turned it into an additional bedroom. So we turned it into a 3-bed, and that's now my highest rented unit. So it's really earning its money back. This picture I like to include because I do have one tenant that I like to call the unicorn tenant. I think we all can agree that we want tenants that add value to the property and make it better. This tenant does exactly that. They love the unit so much in this building that they redid the bathroom completely on their own dime. So all of that was them. I paid for nothing. They did the backsplash here, the floor, granite countertops, the cabinet, everything in here except for the appliances. They replaced on their own, and so they've added tremendous value to me there. I don't have a picture, but they also redid the wooden floors in the living room, all on their own. And so I want to keep this tenant until the day I die. I hope. But yeah. So now let's talk about. This is just a list of some of the larger things that we did throughout the building. The budget that I had was way less than what I actually spent. As a newbie at this, I really didn't have any real concept of what some of these things cost. I did a lot of research, and I thought I had a pretty good handle on it, but there was no way as a newbie to be able to account for all the hidden things in that building that we had to fix that I just didn't know about. So we went way over budget. And so I'll talk about now what went wrong. A lot went wrong. 66% overestimated budget. I initially had estimated 45-ish thousand for renovations to the building. It actually cost me about 75 to do everything in there, which was a bit of a surprise for me. The renovations also took far too long. I was thinking that these were going to take just a couple months. I got unlucky because some of the tenants moved out at the same time, and this was a rookie mistake. I had the contractor that I had hired do both units at the same time. Terrible mistake. He's a great contractor. He does good work. A little bit pricey, but does very high quality work. but he only has one helper. So it made both units take twice as long to finish. I should have hired another crew and just banged them both out at the same time and just gone on with my life, but you know, hindsight, right? So contractors, on this particular building, I got a pretty good one. It just took a little bit long, and because it took so long, I missed my cash out opportunity. The rates shot up before I could get my money out. Now, that was a real bummer for me because I had a HELOC done on it shortly thereafter because I could get a better rate as a reserve, and I had an appraisal done on it, and the thing appraised for nearly 600 grand, so I would have been able to get all my costs out plus some. So one of these days I will be able to get it out, but it's stuck in there for now. The contractors, if you include all of the buildings that I own, the 3 buildings, I have really gone through a lot of trouble with contractors before I found the one that's a good fit for me that really helped me to get all my units renovated. And so this first one was just a little pricey and took too long. So for the next one, I found another contractor, and this guy, his entire crew was all crackheads. When I say, and I mean literally crackheads, one overdosed while they were doing one of my buildings. Thankfully not in my property, but one day he didn't show up for work and I found out, oh yeah, he's dead. Oh, okay. It was like not a surprise to them, you know, and surprise to me, but they showed up once a week. There was beer cans all over the place and who knows what else, and that just wasn't working for me. And the learning experience there is I should have fired that guy way faster than I did. It took too long. But eventually I found the contractor that I work with now. He's done 6 of my units, and, you know, to my satisfaction, and I'll continue working with him. The number one lesson that I learned, the thing that went wrong, property management. Because of what I do, I have to travel a lot, I have to go visit companies, I have to visit clients all over the country, and I manage teams of people all over the country. I'm not home a lot. Managing properties for me is really, really difficult. But I had a manager who will remain anonymous because I don't want to denigrate anybody publicly. Let's just say they didn't really manage. And so I did about 80% of the management, and I got to pay 10% for my trouble. So it's a great arrangement for them, but not for me. And eventually also there, I also took too long to disentangle myself from that situation. I still have a relationship with the person, and we were able to keep it on good terms, but we both agreed that they're just not a good fit for what I wanted. And I swear that Ryan didn't pay me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because he took over my buildings, and within 2 months, he just un-effed the entire situation, we'll put it that way. Went through the accounting, which was all screwed up, the leases, fixed everything, and for a year and a half, I didn't make any money on this building. 2 months in, with new property management that actually works for me, I'm making money. So that's the number one thing that went wrong, is I stuck with bad property management for too long, and it just was a profit killer. And for those of you that want a property manager, I strongly encourage you to interview several and figure out exactly what's most important to you, so you end up working with the one that's going to work with your personality and your goals, because that is the number one mistake that I made early on. So, this is a hilarious slide, and this is where you guys come in. So, bad screening, because of that property manager, led me to some pretty unsafe situations, disgusting situations, what have you. But I don't have time to tell all 3 of these stories, so I'm going to let you guys pick which one I tell.
Hoarding. Hoarding.
What's that?
Hoarding.
No, I don't have any hoarding.
Oh.
So, first up, we've got crackheads for
Oh.
Yeah, 2000.
Next, we've got laundry self-pleasure.
Oh.
And here we've got bootleg landlord. So,
Laundry.
all right, so
Laundry.
wow, okay.
Sex
Okay,
sells.
so I don't have to take participation. You guys already told me what you want to hear. All right, so laundry self-pleasure. So here's what happened. It's not in the building I'm showcasing, but it's a great story in hindsight. It was horrifying when it was happening. So I, up until recently, did all the landscaping at my buildings, frankly, because I'm a cheap SOB, and I really had trouble paying $60 to anybody to mow a 10 by 10 patches of crabgrass, right? So I don't live too far from the building, so I just usually used to go over and do it myself every other week. Anyway, because of that, I was on site quite a bit, and I would go in and check on the common use laundry room that the units shared on the second floor of this building. So one day I go in there and the door's locked. And I'm the only one with the key to that thing at the time. This is before I put keypad entry locks on. And I had the key on me. So I unlocked the door, I opened the door, it's all dark in there. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I turn the lights on. There's curtains on the windows, there's a full-size bed in there, a coffee table, a 55-inch television, a wardrobe, and a guy masturbating in front of me watching television. I don't even tell you what he was watching. Okay? When our eyes locked, it was like I lost a piece of my soul. Okay? So I immediately was like, oh my God. I slammed the door, I ran outside, I had to compose myself. And I would go back in there, I was like, I don't know who you are, but get the F out and call the police. He starts swearing at me in language that I don't even know what it was. Called the police, but he was smart enough to get out before they got here. So anyway, I had several run-ins with people there, and as it turns out, these tenants were illegally renting out the laundry room. They illegally rented out 2 parking spots in the parking lot, random people, as well as one of the garage bays. So they were making their entire rent off of my building. And I discovered this, they only did this for about 2 months before I figured it out. But how I got them out of there is, actually this is where the tow truck comes in a little bit. I inherited these tenants and I looked at the lease, and the lease said they had to register their cars with me. They never did that. So I just started towing them on a daily basis. And then a week later, a U-Haul truck showed up and they were out. They got sick of paying, I think it cost them like $1,000 a week. And so that was the end of them. So that was the easy, creative way to get rid of those people. So what did the numbers, obviously. That's the one thing. I won't skip that. Everyone wants to do the numbers, right? So when I bought this apartment building, first small unit that it was a 1.5 bed. We expanded one of the bedrooms a little bit to make it bigger, to make it a 2-bed, although it's still small. They were paying $425 a month for that. They lived in there for 20 years and never had a rent increase once.
Wow.
And this place was falling apart on them. People just could not live in that kind of squalor, at least not in this country. It was ridiculous. And so I knew we were going to have to turn that one over just for their own well-being, honestly. The second floor unit was the one that I added a full-size bedroom to. They were paying $730. That was a nurse living in there, and she was a very nice woman, but probably the filthiest person I've ever met. And it made me just think about anytime I've ever been to a doctor's office or a hospital, and you think nurses are going to be the cleanest people ever. They're not. Okay? Some of them. And then finally, we had a duplex-style unit on the other side that was paying $1,000. $2,155 for a triplex, even in 2021, before rents shot up, was just ridiculous. So we were able to, over the course of a year and a half, make these increases on each of the units. And some of this was due to the fact that these units 2 and 7 are Section 8. But we had huge increases because we redid everything. We got new tenants in there. Some of them are Section 8 tenants, and we added bedrooms to 2 of the three units. So we eventually wound up with these rents. So with pet fees and everything, we're making $1,800 on the first one, $2,600 on the second one, because I'm paying their utilities, and they wanted an extra parking spot that wasn't theirs. And then 1936, and Ryan and I will talk about that one because I think that one's due for rent increase maybe. But anyway, 6336 is now the gross number in that building. And this is, if you dive down, this is what it looks like. At 3.5%, my PITI, 1967 a month. I average about $300 in the utilities for that one unit. Water and sewers averaged $140 since I bought the building. And the additional expenses are property management expenses, landscaping, and pest control, random stuff like that. So this is around what I'm making, barring any unforeseen repairs and things like that every month, which leads to a cash-on-cash yield of 22 and change, which for me as an investment guy is fantastic. My portfolio averages 10 to 12% every year, which I think is pretty damn good. So if I can get this every year or even close to it, I'll never invest in the stock market yet, and that's what I do. So, had I been able to get my money out, it would have been a 37% return, but I'll take 22. I think it's still pretty good. So, lessons that I learned. If you don't have the right property manager, it can make you quit the business. I thought about it a couple times early on because it was just such a slog, so stressful, and just led to so many problems. And I knew it could be better, but I was stuck in it. I couldn't get myself out quick enough. So get the right property manager. Contractors, same thing. The one that I ended up firing, every day was a negotiation. He'd find some new thing, stressful, nickel and diming on everything. And I just got to the point where I dreaded taking the guy's call because I knew it was going to be some ridiculous negotiation, and I didn't want to deal with it. Networking. Probably the most important thing that I've had since coming to these meetings. I have learned so much more in the year I've been able to come to this meeting and some of the other meetups in the state than I did in the first year when I was effing everything up, not being able to talk to people like you. I've learned more from people like you in this room than I have from any of the podcasts, any of the books I read, and it just severely lessened my learning curve once I was able to do that. And 4, 5, and 6, I'll kind of lump those together. Creative problem solving, like the tow truck thing and some of the other things that I've had to do since I started doing this, has helped me more than I can tell you. And if you want to hear those other 2 stories, find me after the networking, I'll tell you, because they're equally as hilarious or tragic, depending on how you look at it. Things are going to go wrong, always. You just got to count on that as a landlord. They're going to go wrong. You just have to figure out how to overcome it, get past it, learn from it. And remember, it's a business. You can't take things personally. Recently, when I had an eviction hearing, and on my way out after we had won, the boyfriend who was illegally living in the apartment was cursing me in the courthouse lobby. And I just had to ignore him. Now, Colin from 20 years ago would have decked that guy and probably gotten arrested. But now I'm just like, all right, I got kids, I can't do that. So I try to keep the emotions in check and remember it's a business because they'll try and pull on your heartstrings every time. And sometimes it's justified, but more often than not, you got to look out for your own family before you look out for everyone else's. You can't make their problems your problems is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned here. So with that, I don't know if I went too fast or too slow here, Ryan, but I'll stop, and there's my contact information. If anyone wants to talk to me, I love meeting new people. I've learned so much from a lot of you in this room, and I'd love to continue doing that. And if I can help anyone else who's just starting out, I would love to pay it forward also, and hopefully you can benefit from some of the horrible mistakes that I've made along the way. So